Hello and welcome to the Amateur Botanist. It has been long, very long since the last video, but here it is. Because a very curious thing happened in 2022 and just today a very scary thing has begun. Today we'll discuss about the disintegration of the Soviet Union, the current Ukraine-Russia conflict, unusual snow in places like Punakha, the Tonga volcano, and lastly conclude with the nuclear winter. I assure you there are some connections there. For key phrase number 1, I'm pretty sure you have now heard news of Russia apparently invading Ukraine. No? Are you living under a rock? Well, that's your personal choice. But I do hope you climb up that hole and understand the implications of such an aggression by Vladimir Putin.
Overnight, in the capital of Ukraine, the sound of missile strikes and air sirens. Explosions rocking several cities, including the capital of Kyiv, targeting military installations, including air bases housing fighter jets.
So this may as well lead to World War III. Well, hope not. Geopolitics is a hard subject for many to understand. We will later get to why this may be harmful for us. But first, why is Russia, by which I mean the president, Vladimir Putin, hell-bent on bringing Ukraine under Mother Russia's wings? For this, we are going to look at the second key phrase, disintegration of the Soviet Union. Before 1991, USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republic, consisted of many republics, as the name suggests. Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Ukraine, Uzbekistan were some of the countries that came out of USSR. From this, Ukraine Republic was one of the biggest republics, but more importantly, it held a historical significance to the East Slavic people. The East Slav people constituted 70% of the entire population of the previous region of USSR. In the 9th century, the current Russian mainland was constricted to a small area known as Kievan Rus. The growth and expansion to the present huge land of Russia started from here. The present-day Ukraine lies in this Kievan Rus region. The name Russia is also taken from Kievan Rus, meaning land of the Rus. Further, the Ukraine Republic was one of the main founding nations of the USSR. So Ukraine holds special importance to Vladimir Putin, who says that disintegration of USSR was the worst tragedy of the 20th century. He wants to bring the Slavic people together, even if the other one is not so much into it. Putin in July 2021 wrote a 10-page blog post on why Ukraine is an integral part of Russia. In his own words, he says, "When asked about Russian-Ukraine relations, we were one people, a single whole. It is what I have said numerous occasions and what I firmly believe in. The wall emerged between Russia and Ukraine is our great common misfortune and tragedy." He further says Russians and Ukrainians are all descendants of an ancient Rus, bound together by one language. The incorporation of Western Russian lands into one single state was not merely a result of political and diplomatic decisions. It was underlain by the common faith, shared by cultural traditions. I would like to emphasize once again, language similarity. So with this belief in his good conscience, he is now apparently invading Ukraine. More updates on this escalating situation will be given in this very channel, so stay tuned, but which I rather hope never happens. Anyway, that's it for the Ukraine-Russia crisis. Let's get on the third keyword, the unusual snow in Punakha. Places like Punakha, Ngaulam, Tirang and others experienced this snowfall. Even Thimphu had been devoid of snowfall this past few years, so many wondered why it happened this year. Some say it's because of climate change, and others blame it on global cooling instead of global warming. Just goes on to show people really do not understand climate change. But that's not the issue we are looking into today. We are going into some investigative YouTubing about why Bhutan got unusual snow. First of all, what is snow? How is it formed? Snow is simply ice crystals, very thin and all with distinct shapes. It's different to hailstones because hailstones are bigger frozen water droplets. There are three conditions for snow to form. Snow is formed high up in the atmosphere, when the air is below freezing temperature. There needs to be a lot of moisture in the air. And the third condition is the lower region should also be at freezing temperature to receive this snow, or else it melts and will just rain. Essentially, for snow, the temperature should be below freezing point high up in the atmosphere as well as in the region below. So what made the air in lower altitude regions like Punakha freezing this time? Punakha has an average lowest temperature of 5 degrees Celsius, which is not enough for snow to form. There can be one reason for such a sudden change in temperature, and that is known as a cold snap or a cold wave. In this, a wind pattern in the north and south poles, called the polar vortex, which has ultra-cold air, gets weaker and moves towards the equator. Because of this cold air, the temperature drops drastically, but no cold wave or snap had been recorded in December 2021 or January 2022. So this brings us to another reason that may have caused the snowfall in areas like Punakha. To understand this again, we have to travel to the southern atmosphere. But before that, we'll have to understand another thing: how Earth captures the heat of the sun, and what essentially is global warming. The sun's rays, when it enters the Earth's atmosphere, gets absorbed and reflected by everything from the trees and land and also the ocean. But the most important of all, it's captured in the atmosphere, mainly by carbon dioxide, water vapor and methane, most commonly known as the greenhouse gases. Thus, the heat is trapped inside the Earth. In the pre-industrial era, before 1800s, the average Earth's temperature used to be 15 degrees Celsius. But with increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, average temperature has now risen by 1 degree Celsius. And that's what is known as global warming. And it causes climate change, meaning there will be increase in both cold and hot temperatures, not just hot. However, not everything in the air absorbs heat. Some even reflect them back. One prime example is sulfur dioxide. When sulfur dioxide reaches the upper atmosphere, it reacts with water to form sulfuric acid. These sulfuric acid particles reflect the sun's rays before it reaches lower atmosphere of the Earth, hence decreasing the heat. Scientists have put forth this idea of artificially releasing sulfur dioxide in the upper atmosphere to cool down the Earth, if in case we can't control global warming soon. Well, let's see about that. Now that we know about the heating system of the Earth, let's go to the southern hemisphere, and with that, our fifth keyword. On 15th January 2022, a volcano exploded on the island of Tonga in Pacific Islands, a little north of New Zealand. The volcano was considered to have a VEI level of 5. VEI means Volcanic Explosivity Index. VEI ranges from 1 to 8 depending on the volcanic cloud, height, types of emissions and so on. A volcano of VEI 3 is 10 times stronger than one with VEI of 2. The Tonga volcano was a massive one with a VEI of 5, and it erupted with 1,000 km³ of materials, and its cloud rose up to 20 km up into the atmosphere. Tonga volcano is considered to be the biggest volcano of the 21st century and was 100 times more powerful than the atom bomb dropped in Hiroshima. With such devastation, huge amounts of ash and other gases were released into the air, out of which 10 million tons of sulfur dioxide was released in a short time by the volcano. In comparison, factories and man-made sulfur dioxide emissions are only about 1 million tons per month. So half a year of sulfur dioxide was dumped in the air in a very short time. This, as explained earlier, mixes with water droplets in the air to form sulfuric dioxide particles, which reflects heat and cools the Earth. But this cooling is only temporary, as the droplets will soon fall down towards the cloud and the temperature goes back to normal. But again, how can volcano eruption in one region cause the whole Earth to cool? Well, that is an excellent question. There are also various factors on how volcanic emissions affect the Earth's heating and cooling. The main factor will depend on how closer it is to the equator. For Tonga, it is located at 20 latitudes south, relatively close to equator, but it was aided by something called a Coriolis effect. Coriolis effect is caused by the rotation of the Earth, and it causes the air to move towards the poles. Equator also receives high heat and hence hot air rises, which has to be replaced by air from poles, thus forming a cycle. This phenomenon caused the sulfur dioxide from the Tonga volcano to reach the entire Earth very fast, and in what some experts say caused cooling of the Earth, and hence the snowfall we experienced. There may be a different reason for the same, but the Tonga volcano seems to be the most probable explanation now. To be more precise, I looked back at the last time Punakha experienced snowfall. As Quincel said, it was 64 years ago, in the year 1958. I browsed through the archives. There was a volcano in 1957-58 in Russia, which was most probably of a VEI of 4. Owing to its location away from the equator, we can't say for certain that this volcano was the cause of the snow then. However, there was a cold snap in the winter of 1955, which caused a record coldest winter temperature in China. We didn't have proper records of snow then, so the year of the snow in Punakha 64 years ago may not be quite accurate. After all this, the data remains inconclusive on what caused the 1950s snow in Punakha, but the one in 2022 can maybe strongly attributed to the Tonga volcano. If the sulfur dioxide emissions are correct, we may have a colder summer too. Now to our last keyword of this video. It has been so long. Okay, nuclear winter. For this we get back to the Ukraine-Russian conflict and what if an all-out war breaks out. So Putin clearly wants Ukraine for his own, and he has warned that if any other countries intervenes, then Russia will reply on the same accord. The Western allies leading from USA has shown support for Ukraine and has warned Russia that they will protect it. If the conflict escalates, Putin may not shy away from using nuclear weapons. Now, that's where nuclear winter comes. This is similar to the volcanic ash and SO2 causing temperatures to drop. In this case, smoke soot rises up into the atmosphere and it blocks the sun's rays to enter Earth. If the quantity is big due to the Coriolis effect and the atmosphere air movements, it will travel round the globe and cause colder temperature, thus nuclear winter. As the world has never before seen a nuclear winter, but volcanic eruptions and computer models have somehow confirmed that nuclear winter is probable and possible. On the better news, the smoke particles seem to stay in the upper atmosphere only for a short time, so the magnitude and length of nuclear warfare will make all the difference. But seriously, I don't want to know the answer. That's it for today. I hope you learned something from the video today. It is my continued effort to provide meaningful, interesting and informative ideas to you. If you have ideas for a video or have some comments, I'm all ears. If you want to know more in detail about the Ukraine-Russia conflict, you should watch Johnny Harris' video on YouTube. This guy is a master in explaining. And also, in the latest developments, people in Russia have started to come out in crowds against Putin's war efforts in Ukraine, which is a good news. So with that good news in mind, that's it for today. I hope this was much better. Thank you.